Hello, and welcome to Jolie Knits a Lot. This is my show about knitting, crochet, other crafty endeavors, the occasional cocktail, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing? Is it spring where you are? The snow has finally melted here in Edmonton, Alberta. It's still pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, but the sun is out and we're having a lot of really beautiful blue sky days. So everything's drying up quite nicely. The grass is starting to turn green and some of the trees have tiny little buds with the promise of leaves. So spring is on its way, which is great because COVID cases have been increasing and we're not able to get together indoors anyway. So when the weather's nicer outside, it makes it so much nicer. In fact, I have a planned walk, socially distanced walk with a good friend of mine this afternoon. And my Easter weekend was spent visiting with my parents outside and going for a walk with my brother and his family, again outside, distanced with masks. So not ideal, but still it was so nice to see people, so nice to see our family. And yeah, so not a usual Easter, but still time spent together is always valuable and wonderful. How are you? How was your Easter weekend? How are things where you are? Is it warm? Are there flowers? It'll be a while before we have flowers here, sadly. It takes a little while in Edmonton. We don't plant our gardens until after May long weekend, which is May, like the third weekend in May, because there's a risk of frost until that time. So while spring is on its way, it's not a sure thing yet. How are you? What are you working on? I finished something. This is my sweater design. Yay! I'm so happy that it's finished. I just cast off the second sleeve maybe a couple days ago. I haven't really given this a full block yet. I gave it a nice steam block with my steamer because I wanted to show it to you all today. I'm going to put some pictures up here to show you the finished object, but I am really happy with how this turned out. When I put it on today, I was kind of prepared for things to be not 100% what I wanted, but I'm really, really delighted with how it turned out. I feel like these pretty roses, which remind me so much of my mom and my grandmother, on this sort of background of alpaca silk, held double. Oh, it's so soft, really lovely. But because I think I held it double, it is holding its shape really nicely. It doesn't feel like this part with the alpaca versus the DK yarn is any less stable for a sweater, especially around the shoulder. So I don't think it's going to stretch out of shape in any way. I'm really happy with the sort of vintagey color palette that I went with. These yarns are all from The Farmer's Daughter. I will put a link in the show notes to my Ravelry page. And I'm just so happy with it. I decided to go with sort of a 3/4 length, just a straight sleeve. So it's just knit straight to the cuff where I do some decreases and then some ribbing, and I'm really happy with how they turned out, especially for my short little arms. I feel like this is a really nice length. The body length is really kind of right where I want it to be. I feel like the collar or the yoke turned out really nicely. I'm just so happy with it, and I really love the colors. I don't know how it all turned out. Yay! So I think what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks is start writing up this pattern. So if it's something that you're interested in, it may be available to you on Ravelry, and possibly other places in the future as well. I know that there's been a lot of concern about Ravelry and their lack of response to people who are having issues with their website. Issues particularly in terms of visual disturbances, pain, migraines, the risk of seizures, and I just think that if I can make my patterns available elsewhere, then I think that's something I'd like to investigate. So while I don't currently have a website, I'm not sure I want to have a website, there are other platforms where I could sell patterns, and so that might be something that I'm going to be looking into. But the first thing I have to do is write up this pattern. So I'm going to start doing that lickety split because I'm really happy with how it turned out. And if you are happy with how it turned out, maybe you wanted it too. Let me know in the comments below if this is something that you're interested in. I think that there's so many color combinations that would be really pretty. I like this really vintagey sort of look. But again, so many other colors would be pretty too. And I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. I did a sort of a tubular cast on for the neckline, and I think that it gives it a really nice edge. And then I did sewn bind offs for the hem and the cuffs, which gives it some structure, but I think is a really pretty cast off. It looks a lot like a tubular cast off, and it's sewn. So I'm really happy with how this whole thing turned out. Yay! And if you're interested too, let me know, because that may help me to write this pattern up faster. My plan is to have it available in quite a wide size range, probably from about a 30-32 chest to about a, I'm not sure, 54-ish chest. Let me know if that is something that works for you. And let me know if you have comments, concerns about this pattern, but I'm so happy with how it turned out. I just love it. I'm really, really proud of myself. So yay me, yay! So that's a sweater off the needles for me and a finished project that I'm really delighted with. But I'll let you know how the pattern writing goes, and please let me know if you're interested. I have another bunch of things, I guess, off the needles, multiple needles. As you know, my husband and I are venturing into the world of 3D printing sock machine, and it's had its trials and tribulations. I think the last time I saw you, I was talking about how I was really working or trying to get the gauge down, and I've had some success. I'm going to show you something now that I'm really proud of. I haven't wanted to make these into socks because I'm just so pretty happy with how this wheel looks. I just think it's so precious, and I just want to like use it as a little pillow, and every time I walk by it I give it a little pat. I just think it's so pretty. But it's a whole bunch of sock tubes that I've cranked on my circular sock machine. These are 64 stitch tubes, and I think here I'll just show you this one. This is yarn left over from a pair of socks that I've knit. This is from Nomadic Fibers, who dyes great self-striping sock yarn if you're in the market. But I'm really happy with the consistency and the stitch. Look at that definition. I'm just really happy with how consistent these tubes have become. They are knit at about 8 stitches per inch. Go me. So I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with that gauge. If I can maintain it, I'd be a really happy camper. My machine seems to like a bit of a thicker sock yarn. I don't know if that's, I wouldn't think that that would be a feature of all circular sock machines. I know I had some difficulties with a slightly thinner yarn, which I'll show you in a bit. But these ones that I did that are a little bit on the thicker side. It's not a thick sock yarn by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not, it's definitely a fingering and not a light fingering. But I'm just really happy with the stitch tension I got. So here, let me just unroll my little, this is some of the Child, if you remember that one, based on the Mandalorian, the little baby Yoda. Really, again, really great stitch definition. It's just my continuing tube. It's kind of like a roll of toilet paper with bits of scrap yarn in between. And again, I'm also finding different scrap yarns seem to work better. My machine, I think, is finicky. So that's the Child. And then I have, okay, that's that tube. This is some yarn from, Coloring Book Yarns. A tube that I cranked. I'm really happy with this one too. Again, reasonably consistent. The gauge is quite good. It just reminds me of a tube of toilet paper, like a little kid pulling on the tube. Sorry. Some more. I want to say this is from Scrumptious Yarns. Look at, it's just, I'm really getting good consistent gauge with these thicker sock yarns, and I'm really happy with them. And then finally I have this skein, which I can't even remember what the color is. It's quite pretty. So yes, sock machine success. Again, my machine seemed to like a thicker yarn better, and I was getting some really good results with that. I'm waiting for my husband to print me off a 76 stitch cylinder, which would allow me to crank out some manly size socks. I say manly only because the men in my life seem to have relatively wide feet. So a 76 tube doesn't necessarily mean you have longer feet, it just means you have wider feet. So I'm hoping to crank out some sock tubes for the big boys in my life, since I have a few tubes now for a lady size sock. And by lady size sock, I just mean that it's about 64 stitches and my gauge is 8 stitches per inch. So my finished sock is about 8 inches around, which fits quite nicely my foot, which is about a size 8 US, and it fits my daughters who have about 7.5, but quite a narrow foot. And then I'm also playing with different heels to allow for more room in the instep. But 64 stitches seems to be a good size for me and the female feet in my life. But if you have a different size foot and you normally knit your socks at a different number of stitches, then especially with the 3D printing, it's easy enough to get a different size cylinder that would match that. So these are the some tubes that I've cranked that are waiting to be turned into socks. And here is a pair of socks that I made. This is a pair of socks cranked on my circular sock machine with a 64 stitch cylinder. I used Wool Baron in the Ugly Sweater Party colorway. And I mean, these socks are crazy. Look at these. They're so much fun, actually. I just cranked out the whole part skein that I had left, and that ended up giving me quite a long tube. So I've made a couple of socks for me. Now you can see, hopefully, that there's a lot less consistency with this yarn. It's a little bit thinner than the other ones that I showed you previously. I would say it's more of a maybe light fingering. And so I was having some difficulty in consistency with my machine. I'm working on it. It's always a work in progress. But these socks lack the same consistency. I think you can see, especially right here, a thin row of stitches and then some bigger stitches above it. I did manage to get more consistency in certain areas. Like this whole section I think is quite consistent in terms of stitch size, and the foot of this one also quite reasonably consistent. This one has a bit more inconsistency on the leg, and throughout really. So I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. I think I just need to keep making adjustments to the stitch size and the weight that I put on the needles, and I'll let you know how that goes. But I'm happy with these socks, even though they're not perfect. There's a quote that I really like called, I don't even know who came up with it. I'm sure it's just one of those things that appears on calendars and inspirational cards and posters and stuff, but it's progress, not perfection. And I have certainly made progress in the sense that I've gotten a stitch gauge closer to what I want, and I've managed to crank out a number of tubes on my sock machine. So progress, absolutely progress. And these are some very long socks. They exceed my sock blockers. But I think that these will make some really great socks for skiing. My family and I like to go skiing. In fact, over spring break we were in Jasper, Alberta, for a couple of days of skiing at Marmot Basin, which is the big ski hill there. I say hill, it's really a mountain. It is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. And I am not a seasoned skier. I stick to the green runs, which are the easiest, and again, I make progress over perfection. I've definitely improved. I have definitely improved. I am no longer really sore after one day of skiing from being terrified of falling down or losing control. I'm much more relaxed, and I think that helps. My husband and my daughters will ski with me for a while, and then they go off and do the black runs, which are more difficult. And I'm really proud of them because they've become very confident skiers in their own right. And I'm happy to ski by myself on the easier runs and meet up with them at the bottom and ski together a little bit, and then they go their way and I go mine. So I'm happy that I don't hold them back, but I still enjoy my time in the mountains, in the fresh air, and it was just beautiful weather while we were there. So I'm going to put some pictures probably at the end of this podcast of some of the skiing of the places that we saw and the skiing that we did. You will see me on the top of a couple mountains. Just know that no one was harmed in the skiing down, even though I was a little bit scared at the top of one of them. It's not a run that I normally do, and so I was a little bit nervous because it's not a place that I really know. I don't know where to go. I'm not as confident, but I made it down okay. Yeah, again, progress over perfection. Quite happy with myself for the improvements and the progress that I've made skiing. And when I ski, I like to wear, it's like that commercial for beer, for Dos Equis, if you know it. No, it doesn't really matter. But when I ski, I like to wear long knitted socks, and these would be great over a pair of leggings. And my youngest daughter also likes to wear my hand knit socks when she's skiing. They're warm, they're cozy inside my boots, and I like to wear them up high enough that they cover the top of my boots, so these will suit the bill quite nicely. And really, these are some statement socks. I'm quite happy with them. The yarn again is Wool Baron in the Ugly Sweater Party colorway. It's another pair of ski socks to add to my collection. And that is all the finished objects I have off my needles today. I do have one project that I cast on recently, and I have another one in the wings that I think I'll be casting on this weekend. Last time I talked to you, I was interested in knitting the outline tank. This is a pattern by Jessie May Designs, and it is a rather sassy tank that features drop stitches to create an open work along the top and then straight down the middle on both sides like this, and then also down the sides. It looks amazing on everyone that I've seen who's knit it. So I have cast on. I showed you the yarn last time. This is Mojave. It's by Kelborn Yarn. And this is in the smoke gray colorway. It occurred to me while I was working on this yesterday that I have actually knit myself a couple of summer tops, sleeveless. One's a tank, one is a sleeveless kind of t-shirt, and they're all in gray. So apparently like a light gray is my go-to summer color. Anyway, here we are back again with the smoke gray. This yarn is a 60% cotton, 40% linen blend, and it's really lovely to work with. I find often cotton yarns are stiff and can be kind of hard on your hands. I find that they dry out my hands, or I feel my hands become rough as I'm working with them. But this one, it's got a really nice drape so far. I mean, I haven't knit that much, but it's got a really nice drape, and it's really soft feeling. And I think with the linen, it will become softer as I wear it. The way that this pattern is worked is you do some ribbing, you knit the body, you knit the top and the straps, and then you drop the stitches, and that's what creates that sort of open work look on the pattern. So right now I'm just in a happy place where I'm blissfully knitting in the round, and I'm going to be doing that for a number of inches. The pattern for my size suggests that the body should be 9 inches for a cropped look. I'm not really interested in a cropped look, so my plan, my tentative plan, is to knit at least 2 balls of the yarn that I have. I have 3 balls of this Mojave yarn. So I'm going to knit at least 2 balls into the body and see how long it is. And then the top will be the last ball, and I think that should work out just fine. I'm hoping that the body will be at least 12 to 14 inches. I think that would be a much more comfortable length for me. In fact, the longer the better. So I'm going to see how far I get the first ball or 2, and then I'll make some executive decisions on how much I think I'll need for the top portion of the tank top. I should need quite a bit less because when you get to the armpits, it just becomes like a V tank top, much less surface area covered. So I'm hoping that I can add quite a bit of length to this tank top, and then I think it'll be something that I wear, I'll be more comfortable wearing. So the Outline Tank by Jessie May Designs. It's a very popular pattern on the internet right now. There's some really beautiful pictures on Instagram if you're interested. Again, samples on every body and skin tone that you could imagine, which makes it feel like it makes it feel more accessible to me, and I think that probably a lot of people feel that way. When you see a pattern on a body like yours, it makes you feel more confident that it will look good on you, I think. And again, it looks great on most people, just depending on what your comfort level is. There's certainly some really great cropped versions of this tank top. There are some really beautiful versions that are longer, and I've seen some ladies have it sort of tucked in to either pants or a skirt, and I really like that look also. So I'm going to see how far I can get with the yarn that I have, but I'm fingers crossed I can make it long enough that I'll be comfortable wearing it. And really, that's all I have on the needles, but I do have my next cast on ready in the wings. This is going to be a flea cardigan that I'm going to be knitting for my mom for Mother's Day, which I sort of recognize as maybe cutting it a bit close. When is Mother's Day this year? I'm going to check in my calendar. Ooh, May 9th. That is cutting it close. I thought I had a little more time than that. That's okay. I can do it. I have the yarn already. It's all wound up. It's ready to go. And I'll show it to you in just a minute. Actually, I'll show you the yarn first, and then I'll show you my plans for that yarn. This is yarn that, I have it in this nice big bag. This is a hammer and hide bag that I purchased for myself as a little treat. I really like this bag. It is a wax canvas. It's really tall. It has a great leather handle. I'm a sucker for a leather handle. I'll be honest with you. Anyway, the way that this bag works is that it's really tall, and then to close it, you simply roll down the top, kind of like a lunch bag, and then it has this leather enclosure. So one side has got a brass knob on it, and the other side has a series of holes, and you just adjust it to the size that you want. Push the brass knob through the hole, and then you've got this great bag. Nothing's going to fall out of it, and it's quite adjustable. The straps can go to this length, so I have a lot more room. I could also snug it up quite a bit more too. And in the inside, there's a really beautiful array of pockets for things like a pen for when I'm writing on my pattern, or also DPNs, because oftentimes you need a circular needle, and you also need some DPNs if you're working sleeves or what have you. for ribbing. So it's a really great bag. And then I like to fold down the top and use it as kind of a yarn bowl. Anyway, the pattern that I'm making is the flea cardigan. I will put a picture of it right here. And I'll also put a picture of my flea cardigan right here. I wore this pattern on a previous episode. It's a great, great cardigan. I love it. So when I was wearing it, I was inspired to make another one. And I thought, well, I don't need 2 fleas. But maybe my mom needs some fleas. So my little hamster wheel got turning in my brain, and I set out to make my mom a sweater. So I went to my local yarn store, the Fiber Nook, which they're so great there. I went in, I booked an appointment, which you can do at a lot of local yarn stores. At the Fiber Nook, you can book an appointment so that you're not shopping there with a lot of different people, and it just helps keep social distancing to a minimum. So when I went, there was me and I think 3 people stocking or going through their new yarns that were coming in. So that the store manager and a couple of owners were just all there working, and I came in to look at some yarn. So as I was browsing their yarn, of course a couple of them came over to help me because they're so amazing. And I told them what I was looking for. I knew that I had a yarn in mind for the contrast colors, but I was looking for a color for the main color, the base of the sweater, and so I got some great help with that. This is the yarn that I'm using as the main color. It looks really nice on screen, and that's pretty accurate. This, I can't even remember what it is. Oh, that's terrible podcasting. I apologize. This is from Gathering Yarns. It's called The Harvest Is Here. It is 100% British wool milled in the UK. Now, according to my resources at the Fiber Nook, this is the same as Wool Local, which was an Erica Knight yarn. It was bought up by Gathering Yarns, and was reasonably priced. I think this was, yeah, this is the oatmeal color, and I have maybe 4 or 5 skeins of it. More than I need, I'm sure. But this will make a lovely sweater, and because of the way that it's spun, it's kind of loosely spun, I think that it'll make for great color work. So this is my background. It's oatmeal. I love a good oatmeal sweater. And then the next, not contrast, but the color that I'll be using for the collar and the bands is this color. Most of the contrast colors I'm using are John Arbin Exmoor Sock. Exmoor Sock is, this is called Bibblebug. I think that's a great name. Exmoor Sock is 60% Exmoor Blueface, 20% Corriedale, 10% Svorpals, and 10% nylon, made in the UK. It is machine washable, but it's quite a toothy yarn, and I think it'll be just fine for steeping. I'm willing to risk it. So this is Bibblebug, and that will be the collar and the button bands with the oatmeal. It'll also be all the little dots throughout the sweater, or the fleas of the flea cardigan. And then my next contrast colors are just an array of the Exmoor Sock. So I have this deep sort of burgundy color. I have this really pretty sort of fuchsia rose color. I have a skein of mustardy yellow. I just love throwing in yellow in color work. I just think it really is a nice pop. So those are 3 that I've got. I also have this really great kind of blue color. I don't know, is turquoise, teal? It's not quite a sky blue, but I think, like, look at that with the mustard. Ooh, that's great. And then I throw in this red or fuchsia color and the purple. So that is these are my contrast colors. And then also, just to add a little bit more depth to it, I have part skein of some Mondim. This is yarn from Retrosaria. It is a Portuguese yarn. It's a sock yarn. This is 100% Portuguese wool. I've used it in the past for color work and it works great. So it is going to play, I think, really nicely with all the other colors that I have that I can't show you all in one go. Maybe, oh no, wait for it. Oh, I'm gonna make it, Mom. Okay, so those are all the colors that I will be using for this sweater. I'm gonna take a better picture of them to show you them. Anyway, so when I'm doing color work, and particularly for this sweater, this is exactly what I did when I knit my sweater. I took all the colors that I wanted to have and I laid them out on the ground, and I took some black and white pictures to make sure I was getting the type of contrast that I wanted. Then I just found some pencil crayons and I colored in the chart. So I just took some I guess graph paper. This is knitter's graph paper. I drew out the pattern for the color work section, and then I just colored it in with the colors until I found a combination that I liked. Now, this isn't my first attempt at this coloring. I went through several iterations until I found one that I liked. And also you can see I did some whiting out because I didn't like the way it was working. But I made some notes, and I'm going to be working off of this for my chart. And I'm going to be casting on soon. The first time I knit this sweater, the color work section just zoomed by. Like, it was crazy how quickly it went. And I loved it. And then after that, it was just really pleasant knitting with occasional color work, but not stressful color work. So I'm looking forward to getting this on the needles and having it be something that is slightly more challenging, and balancing that with the stockinette of the outline tank top for some more relaxing knitting. And that's my plans for the next couple weeks. Now, there's one more thing that I wanted to share with you, and that is a little giveaway. The last time we talked, I had just reached 200 subscribers. I had not been able to contact the winner of my 100 subscriber giveaway, and so I offered this up for anyone who left a comment on the last podcast. So this prize, which is a skein of mustache yarns in their Woodstock 50 colorway and some Sheepy's Metropolis in the Warsaw colorway, are going to be heading to Celeste, whose name I'm going to put on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for continuing to come back and join me for knitting and chat every couple of weeks. I really appreciate the comments that you leave. I appreciate just spending time with you, and I'm really, really grateful for you. So Celeste, I'm going to ask you to email me at jolenknitsalot@gmail.com. Please let me know your mailing address, and I will get this lovely prize out to you as soon as possible. So all that is left to say is thank you so much for joining me. I hope you like my sweater. I hope you make one too. And I hope that in the next couple of weeks you find time to do the things that you like to do. I know I plan on knitting a lot. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.